Hey guys, I'm Neil and welcome back to High Gain Guitar Academy. Today we are going to discuss the notes on the guitar neck, not just the strings, but the frets, the whole musical alphabet, where everything is, how to connect it. This is your go-to video for notes on the guitar neck, okay? So let's start out with recognizing the musical alphabet. So we know the musical alphabet goes A through G. And there's in-between notes called sharps and flats. Now, sharps are higher, flats are lower, we know that, but where do they all fit into the big picture on the guitar neck? So it's important to remember that every note has a sharp and a flat, except for a few of them. And this is the same on any instrument, doesn't matter what instrument you play, the musical alphabet rules stay the same, right? So every note has a sharp and a flat except E and F. E goes right into F. There's no E sharp, and F goes down to E. There's no F flat. They're just connected. Same thing with B and C. B goes right into C. There's no B sharp. C goes down into B. There's no C flat. That being said, it's important to note that sharps and flats will sometimes have two names. Let me give you an example. If I'm playing a D note, and I go one fret higher, that's a D sharp. And then another fret would be E. But if I'm on E and I go one fret lower, that's E flat. Now wait a minute, D sharp and E flat are the same thing. So often when a note is referred to, it depends on your perception of the note. If someone tells me C sharp, I might think of that as D flat. It's the same thing. Now, how do I know when to use the name sharp or flat? And I guess it would kind of depend on your discretion, but also I like to think of it as if I'm going up in pitch, up the neck, then I might call it C sharp. But if I'm going down, I might call it D flat. Again, it's to your discretion, but it's worth noting that that's a thing. It's a little confusing, but it's a thing that everybody that plays an instrument will need to know. Using the music alphabet to learn the guitar neck is really pretty simple. It's a skill that you've learned since you were a kid, knowing the order of your letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that's as high as we have to go. So for the sake of knowing our usual alphabet in the English language, let's start on the A string, because we're most familiar with the letter A being a starting point. So we're going to the A string, which is your second biggest string, the second string down. Now that note open, that string open is an A. We know that, that's the designated A string. So that means your first fret, which is a higher pitch, that's going to be A sharp. Then the next note, the second fret, will be B. So we had A sharp, B. Now B is one of the ones that doesn't have a sharp. B goes right into C. So after the second fret, we go to the third fret, that's C, B, C. Continuing on from there to the fourth fret, C sharp. Fifth fret is D. Sixth fret, D sharp, followed by the seventh fret, E. Stay with me now. E will go right into F. That's the other one that doesn't have a sharp. E goes right into F. And then we go to the ninth fret, F sharp. Then the 10th fret, G, followed by G sharp. And what happens next? We're at the double dots. That's A again. Now we've gone from a low A to a higher A. And again, that's called an octave. Now, what we've done is cover all the notes on that string all the way up to the octave. But if the octave is the same note as the open string, it's basically where it starts over, then we've just simplified the guitar neck, because from 12 up is just a repeat of what we've already done. So when we look at all the frets on the guitar neck, it can be a bit overwhelming, but really you only have to learn 0 to 12, because after 12, it just repeats what we already did. So if open is just like 12, 1 is just like 13, 2 is just like 14, and so on. It's just a repeat. I think that cuts down on half of our work right there. So now we've done the work on the A string to understand the notes going up the neck, calling everything a sharp. A sharp, B, and so on. Now, if we were to go from the 12th fret of the A, which is an A note, down, I'm going to call those notes flats this time instead of sharps. So we're at the 12 of the A, which we know is an A note because that's the octave. So then we go 1 fret lower to 11. That's going to be A flat this time. It was G sharp when we were going up, but now that we're going down, we're going to call it A flat. Down to G, G flat, and so on. We're going to follow it all the way down. So G flat, then we're going to go to F, then go down one more. There's no F flat, it's just E. Remember, E and F are connected. E flat instead of D sharp, D, D flat, C. C is the other one, goes right to B. There's no C flat, C down to B. B flat, and then finally back to A. So we can use this same pattern for any of the strings. You just start from whatever that string is named. So if we were to do this from the E string, for example, the first note is E, then the first fret would be F because E goes right to F, F sharp, G, G sharp, starting back over, A, because remember it only goes through G, then we start back over. That's the musical alphabet. A sharp, B, B goes right into C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and back to E. We've reached the octave once again. And then it will just continue. E, F, F sharp, G, and so on. It's just a repeat of what we've already done. So hopefully this has made it a little easier to understand how to connect the neck. When we talk about octaves, it's also useful to kind of know where all your octaves of notes are on the neck. So I'm going to show you a quick way to reference those octaves. So now we've gone through all the notes on the neck, but it's also a useful skill to be able to identify where all the octaves of any given note are. So I'm going to show you a trick on how to do that. Now we know that starting on an open string will be the name of that string. That's an open E. And then the 12 will be the octave, right? But where's an E on the A string? Well, now we've got to remember how to follow the notes down the A string until we find an E. A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. So now we know that the 7th fret on the A string is an E note. And we know that if we do the same thing past the 12, the octave, if we just go to the next one and we hit the 19, we know that that's also an E note on the A string. A useful tip is use your dots. If I know that 3rd dot on the A string is an E note, then up here all I have to do is do the same thing. Act as if 12 was open, 1, 2, 3rd dot. Same thing. So the dots also repeat past the 12, past the octave. So now I know where 2 E notes are on the E string and 2 E notes on the A string. And then onto the D string, same idea. D, D sharp, E. So now we know that 2nd fret on the D string is an E note. And then I can follow that up here to the octave. Same thing. There's 2 E notes on the D string. And you'll do this for every string. Another way to follow the octaves and find where all the octaves are is to do some string skipping. And I'll show you what I mean. This is another trick I like to use. Now let's say I'm on the 3rd fret of the E string. What note is that? E, F, F sharp, G. To find an octave within that area, I can go 2 strings down and 2 frets higher. Okay, so I'm on that G note on the E string, on the 3rd fret of the E, 2 strings down, 2 frets up. That's where the octave is. So that's going to be a really useful thing to know. Now we can use that same logic to find yet another octave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pointer finger where my pinky is on that D string. So where that octave of E was, now that's my pointer. And I'm going to use a similar logic to find the next octave of this note. So 2 strings down, and this time it's going to be 3 frets up. And I've found the 3rd octave. Now, this can also be used on the A string. It doesn't have to start from the E. So if we start from the 3rd fret of the A string, for example, that's going to be a C note. 2 strings down and 2 frets up, now we have another C note. Now my pointer's going to go there. 2 strings down and 3 frets up, we have another C. And you can use this all over the neck. I could do it up high. That is a really quick way to reference where your octaves are. Now let me show you something. This is a good trick for tuning your guitar. The 5th fret of most of the strings is going to be the same note as the next open string. Let me explain. The 5th fret of the E string, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. The 5th fret of the E string is an A note, which is exactly the same note as the next open string. So 5th fret of the E, open A. Exact same note. And then we'll use the same logic for that string on the A string. So A, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D. The 5th fret of the A string is a D note, just like the next open string. So I can use the 5th fret of a string to identify what the next open string is. Except when we get to the G and B string. The way a guitar is tuned, the G string must be played on the 4th fret because that, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, that's a B note, the 4th fret for the G and B string. Okay, that's the one difference. But then you go back to the 5th fret for the last 2 strings. So 5th fret of the B string is an E note, just like your open E last string. I know, it's a lot all at first, but I'm telling you, watch this video a few times, pause parts, work on it, come back and watch it again. It's all gonna start to make sense. I think sometimes we just need someone to break it down and explain it in a way that's a little bit simplified. So remember, once you learn up to the 12, that's all you need. After that, it's just a repeat. Remember your sharps and flats, and you can take everything you're learning in this lesson and play it on another instrument too. It will translate to another instrument because the notes are universal. If I'm playing a saxophone or a piano, any other instrument, the notes will be the same. They'll just be played in a different way, right? On a piano, you're playing the keys this way. On a saxophone, you might play it this way with the keys. Guitar is played this way, but the notes are all gonna be the same, guys. The musical alphabet is universal. Sharps and flats are universal. Octaves are universal. It just depends on the boundaries of the instrument, and that's up to you to push. So hopefully this was helpful, and we'll see you next time.